and as my guest. Terry Staudinger has already mentioned to me the details are incredibly important. Terry is the president of the Kennewick Education Association. Terry, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, Christine.
So teachers have been complaining basically about too much testing for quite a long while now. Review with us, Terry. What are some of the issues that are important to teachers? Why have they complained about them?
Well, as more and more tests have been piled upon our plate, less emphasis is put upon other things. And I'll give you an example. Testing is all about language arts and math. And therefore, all their energy, all their focus is on language arts and math, which I'm not saying that that's not important. Of course it is. But other things are important too. Art, music, social studies. It's also important that our kids have PE. You know, it's just, there's so many other things that we need to focus on, not just language arts and math. But with all the mandates for all the testing, that's what's really important.
So testing typically in schools right now, we have district tests. They come up with their own or they purchase them or whatever.
Correct.
Then there are state tests.
Correct.
And then there are national tests.
The federally mandated tests, right.
And all of those would be considered standardized tests.
Standardized tests, correct.
Wow, that in itself, those are a lot of tests.
Yes, about 112 tests the average student will take between preschool and graduation.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. All right. So are teachers currently held responsible for test results in any specific way?
Well, we have actually fought this off in Washington State. Many states do hold teachers accountable by linking student test scores to their evaluations. But here in Washington State, we do not do that. However, your school is held responsible for test scores. So your school is considered a priority school if they don't meet a certain standard.
And are those based on, you mean the state tests and the national tests?
That's correct.
Okay. Wow. Tests, as the president described them, sort of looking at a new way to evaluate the tests and determine which ones. He identified tests that are like worth taking, time limited, providing a clear picture. None of those are very specific, but what do you think should be taken into account when tests themselves are evaluated?
Well, you're correct. That's very vague, and we're not really sure what he means by that. As a teacher, I've actually taught for 20 years in Kennewick School District. The most important tests, the most valuable tests, were the formative types of tests that we gave in our classrooms, and it just focused in on what we were teaching. And so it would be, and I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say I was going to teach a lesson on multiplication, math facts. So I would give a pre-test to my students, find out what they know. I would teach the lesson, we would practice, and in the end I would give a post-test. In that way I would know which students understood, got the lesson, and which students still needed help. In that way, it informs my instruction. Okay, so those are the most important types of tests that we give. Standardized tests are tests that are given to every student in the state, ask the same questions. So it might not focus in on exactly what you're teaching in your classroom at any given time. So we also don't get the results of the test until the end of the year, which really doesn't help inform our instruction at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the most important tests to teachers would be the ones that help us improve our instruction, to let us know exactly where our kids are and what we can do to help them.
Mm-hmm. Well, are the standardized tests that are, let's say, even at a district level, state level, national level, are they all centered around Common Core, which is for example, we want third graders to know these 20 things. Do they respond to those issues?
Okay, so I think, I'm sorry, I think there might be a slight misunderstanding. The national tests are, the national mandate would be the state test. So there's a national mandate to give us the state
To give a state test.
Right,
Okay,
okay.
okay.
So,
Mhm.
Okay, so, no, I'm sorry, what was your question?
All right, let me think back on that.
Okay.
Common Core.
Oh,
Do they
yes.
respond to Common Core, which is we want students to learn certain things by certain ages or grades?
Yes, now the tests are based on Common Core, not our local tests, not our district tests. Our district tests would be the MAPS testing, which is another type of test that we give in the Tri-Cities. I'm just going to speak for Kennewick. We give that test twice a year, and some grades have it 3 times a year.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I want to invite you to join our conversation about testing. Our phone number is 547-8726. My guest today is Terry Staudinger. She is the president of Kennewick Education Association. We're going to take a break right here, but we will be back. We want to talk more about testing and what teachers and students can look forward to in the future. Stay with us. Welcome back to Meet in the Middle today on this Monday. I'm Christine Brown, and my guest today is Terry Staudinger. She is a 20-year teacher, but now she is president of the Kennewick Education Association. We're talking about the Obama administration's announcement over the weekend for new testing guidelines, and essentially what the president is saying is that testing itself overall needs to be reduced in its quantity, and its quality needs to be substantially improved. So if you want to join our conversation, if you have any experiences with testing yourself as a former teacher or as a parent, our phone number is 547-8726, and we'd love to add you to our conversation. So Terry, I'm curious, do teachers negotiate test taking in any way as part of their contract discussions?
Well, the nationally mandated test, we can't negotiate that. But the local testing that we do, we could have that into our contract negotiations. I know Pasco just put some provisions in their brand new contract around testing.
Mm-hmm. And didn't you tell me that Kennewick actually is starting negotiations now, and that the contract is up in 2016 at some point?
It is up on August 31st, 2016. We are preparing to bargain. We are meeting with all of our folks. We have over 1,000 teachers. We're going out to their buildings, we're talking to them, we're holding focus groups, we want to hear what their concerns are. And I can tell you, with the response that we have gotten so far, testing is one of their concerns.
Oh, okay, all right. In the material, which again, we totally agree is very limited of what we've seen from the president already, there is described as he would like to hold back the testing time to 2% of class time. Does that sound reasonable? I mean, how does that figure fit in?
Well, I would have to look more at the details of that, because I'm wondering if he means the testing itself, whereas the students are actually sitting down, taking the test, or does he mean all the preparation that goes into testing? So, as it is right now, that is a lot more than 2% of the time students are in school. So, if he means just the test itself, but that is not taking into consideration all of the days and weeks it takes to prepare kids for testing,
Why? How do you prepare? Give me an example of preparing to take a test.
Well, again, keep in mind, if you're just testing math and reading,
Mm-hmm.
then that is your focus, math
Yeah.
and reading. And so kids aren't getting other other subjects. They're just focused on math and reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, that is a huge concern to us. I mean, so much is being cut out, and some of our schools are considered priority schools. So they basically have failed the test. They're not meeting a certain level, and so the kids have to take double math and reading. So that means that not only do they have one class of math and reading, they have to take 2 classes of math and reading.
I see.
And so then they don't get science or PE
Mm-hmm.
or other subjects that the other kids whose test scores were higher do get.
Okay, so I thought that preparing to take the test was meaning some of the way that you respond to the test. For example, you have to stay within the lines. You are going to read some material and then you have to spit it back out as terms of what it said, or problem solve, that type of thing.
It
so
is.
teaching towards that type of
Teaching
response.
to the test. You
Yeah.
are correct. That is part of it also. So along with taking doubles,
Yeah.
that's all you're learning to do, is how to respond to the test. And it is my understanding that the new math tests are reading. So, I mean, you can know how to do computation, but unless you are a very good reader, you're not going to understand the question.
Oh.
Yes, so,
Mm-hmm.
it's very frustrating to our teachers, because it just, to them, it feels like the joy is gone.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure to pass these tests, to get the kids to pass the tests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, that's all they're focused on now. It's
Yeah.
just passing the test.
Well, there has been over time a lot of discussion about anxiety for students because of the testing. Is that real?
Absolutely. And it's so sad. I mean, it just breaks our heart. We have little 3rd graders, breaking down, crying, because they don't understand, and the teachers aren't allowed to help them on the test.
Oh.
We had kindergartners who were being tested.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the amount of pressure on the kids is just enormous. Kids want to do well. Kids always, they want to please their teacher, and so they're doing their best. But, and I know in my own district there were a lot of just technical issues. We had some kids who would get halfway through the test and the screen would disappear. Oh, by the way, it's all on computer
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Okay, so the test would disappear. I mean, just crazy things happen, just technical glitches. But aside from that, kids want to do well. And when they may not have the skills, some of our second language learners, some of our special ed children, they just don't have, the capabilities of doing as well. Yes, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. We have a lot of kids breaking down, crying, getting sick.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's not good.
That's
not
not
good.
good.
But testing is kind of important to kind of know where we're at. I want to go back there to that 2% of class time as kind of a measurement. And again, we don't know how it's going to be measured. But one of the other little tidbits of information that came out was that this plan also calls for parents to be notified if their child spends more than the 2% of class time on the standardized testing. Is that helpful? Do you think that would be useful?
I think it's very helpful for parents to know what is going on, because the more parents know, the more they can be involved. Because I think that the reason President Obama has finally made this turn is not so much what the teachers have been saying, is maybe what the parents have been saying too.
Mm-hmm.
So, the more parents can get involved, the more they learn, the more they realize that 112 tests is a ridiculous amount of testing. And so I know a lot of parents are opting out of tests. And yes, to answer your question, yes, I think it's very helpful that parents know how much testing is really going on in their schools.
Well, I wasn't aware that parents could opt out of tests.
Absolutely, they can.
Wow.
Yes, they can opt their kids out of tests.
Huh, okay, that's interesting. Well, my observation is that everything in life is all about the pendulum swinging. I've repeated this many times and I still think that it's really, really true. That we have a tendency in our culture to swing the pendulum way over to one side, to go kind of extreme, and then when we finally figure out, I don't know if that makes sense, we start swinging backwards. So in this situation, it seemed like a lot more testing started back with No Child Left Behind, and that is the George Bush administration. And then it seemed to just carry through with the Obama administration. So do you hold out any hope that there will be some significant modifications here?
Well, we're holding out for the ESEA, which is the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, to be overhauled. And that's supposed to be going through Congress right now, and we're really, really hoping that it does, because there's some great things in that. We know that testing is in ESEA, and limiting the amount of testing, and how tests are used, and so we're really hoping that does go through the overhaul. Right now, with what President Obama said, this is a great first step, because that's recognition that there is a problem. But because there's no real mandate, I believe that what he said is just recommendations to the states, and then the states are going to say to each district, okay, so you guys do things differently in each district, and so it's going to be up to each district. And so we're not really sure how much impact his recommendations are going to have on what's really going on in our classroom every single day. But at least it is recognition that there is a problem.
Well, it's probably, yeah, I guess recognition of a problem and encouragement to do something about it, but it being controlled at the local level and the state level.
That is
so,
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have teachers been feeling that the testing is more punitive than descriptive, or?
Well, I know that they feel it's punitive when children are forced to take a test that they are not capable of taking.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know, our special ed kids, or our second language learners in particular, you know, children of poverty, they come to school with a lot less skills most of the time, and so they are not on level by the time we have to start taking these tests. I mean, Christine, we're testing kindergartners now. I mean, we're testing kindergartners.
What are we testing them about?
We have a test called Walk Kids, and this is when the kindergartners first come in. And
Yeah, I've seen that, because our little one Harley did that 2 years ago.
Yes, yeah, and so it's right when they first come in, and it's a skills test. It's math and reading.
Math and reading,
Yes.
and this is age 5.
Age 5. Yes, and so, and it's baseline, and I can tell you that really what it is, and I understand the need to know where the baseline
Right.
is, but if you look at the scores, it is very obvious which kids come from certain sides of our city,
Oh, I
and
see.
which side, you know, which kids
Yes.
come from the other side of our city, you know, just based on the scores. And so basically that test just tells us the haves and the have-nots in our city. And so, you know, that kind of thing is very frustrating. I mean, whereas we do need to know what kids know, to spend days and days testing kindergartners and just continue on. Each grade has testing, every single grade, every single year. And the tests just get, you know, there's more and more testing every single year.
Yeah. Well, it seems like maybe 20 to 30 years ago, we were only testing like every second grade, you know, like every first grade, fourth grade, 8th grade, that type of thing. We weren't doing it every year, but now we are
Every
testing
year, yes.
every year.
Every year, every grade.
Yeah, we seem to have a lot more emphasis on testing than we actually have on instruction.
That's what it feels like to our teachers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, our teachers just feel like that's all they do, is prepare kids for tests.
All right, well, this could be the first step, and it'll be interesting to see the way that local districts decide to use that national leadership and change anything that they are doing. It seems like it would be a really great idea if we took the local test and the state test and made them one, so that we had one test. Why don't we do that?
Well-
Why does the local district feel that they need an additional test?
Well, that's a very good question. But I will say that the local test is the MAPS testing. And so MAPS testing is different from the standards-based testing. Okay,
Mhm.
so MAPS testing, that's the one that's given 2 or sometimes in some grades 3 times a year. And our teachers actually use MAP testing. It's more, and I don't know if I say the formative assessment, but at least MAP testing gives our teachers an idea of progress through time. So we'll take it in the fall, and then some grades take it, in the winter, and then we take it in the spring. And so we can actually see some progress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whereas the Common Core test, the SBAC test, is taken one time, and so it's a snapshot in time in the spring, and then that's your score.
Yeah. So the other testing, the 3 times a year, demonstrates growth and improvement. And I know that people, oftentimes teachers or other educators, think that the best measurement actually is improvement, not just what you know.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true, because if you start with the baseline, what do they know now?
Mm-hmm.
What do they know after you have taught the lessons, after they've had a chance to practice? Then that actually does show growth. But if you just have one snapshot in time, that doesn't show growth.
Yeah. All right. So we've learned about testing and how it is happening here in our local area, Tri-Cities. So we'll be watching to see what kinds of leadership is provided by our state, and certainly in the legislatures that comes up.